Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you ladies and gentlemen. We are here today for the awareness program on international joint PhD programs organized by the International Relations Office, University of Peradeniya. I am Roshan Pradeep from the International Relations Office and I am happy to be your host in today's program. The objective of today's program is to create awareness of initiating international joint PhD programs between University of Peradeniya and other foreign institutes. Please be kind enough to post your questions in the Q&A section below during these presentations and we are happy to answer them as much as possible. So first, let me invite Professor Shameen Jinadasa, the Director of the International Relations Office, University of Peradeniya, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Roshan. Good afternoon to you all from Sri Lanka, and maybe it's evening for our Australian resource persons. Thank you very much for participating today as resource persons, and also all the participants. You are all welcome for the program. It's my privilege and pleasure to welcome you all for this program today on international joint PhD programs. If I especially mention the Professor Saman Halgamuge from University of Melbourne, who is joining with us, and Professor Ashantha Goonetilleke from Queensland University of Technology, Dr. MCM Nasvi from University of Peradeniya, who are presenting and joining with us as resource persons. In addition to that, we have invited 3 panelists for today's eminent researchers and who are collaborators. Professor Rohana Chandrajit from University of Peradeniya, Professor Terence Madhujit, again from University of Peradeniya and the Director for Research, and also the Dr. Nanda Gunarathan, our good friend and always contributing and helping for all the programs from Sri Lanka Technological Campus, joining with us as the moderator for Q&A session. So this objective of today's program is to mainly make aware all our researchers and academics how we can develop a collaborative or joint PhD program, and also how it will benefit for in future for our university and academic staff. In addition to that, under pandemic situation like this, how this kind of program will be helpful. So it will be very important for us to learn about how this collaboration and joint PhD programs can be developed, and how it will benefit for our universities, mutually benefited for all the universities. So without taking much time, I would like to again welcome you all and thanking all who are supporting this program, and hope it will be a very good program for you all today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So we have 3 resource persons for today, and they will be presenting for about 10 to 15 minutes on various aspects on our topic. So now I take the opportunity to invite our first speaker for today, Professor Saman Halgamuge from the University of Melbourne, Australia. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and I will share my slides. I have a couple of slides to talk about. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, I can see.
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'll be primarily talking about why international joint PhD programs. So my connection to joint PhDs is about 5-6 years old, because I was the director of a joint PhD center at University of Melbourne. And so that center was created to have joint PhDs between IITs, 3 major IITs and Indian Institute of Science, and University of Melbourne. So I will start with this slide, and I was told that University of Peradeniya has advertised their researchers in this list, which came up very recently on their website. And so this is an interesting place to start. So Sri Lanka has 15 plus researchers in there. So I could only find 15 because I looked for the country affiliations, but there are some other Sri Lankan researchers currently living in Sri Lanka, but they are, for whatever the reason, the database thinks that they live in UK or Australia, so on, and therefore 15 plus people. And most number of these researchers are from Sri Lanka are in University of Peradeniya, which is an interesting observation to make. And I thought of picking one of them, person I know best, and is my friend Priyan Dice from Civil Engineering in University of Moratuwa. So the reason I picked this one to start with is to just analyze his papers, is to look at the international collaboration. So he is one of the 15 plus people from Sri Lanka in this list. So that means he's influential in terms of citations and so on in civil engineering field. So this is his Google Scholar. And so I took year 2020. And the most recent publications, if I look at the first one, if I look at the first two authors, and they are from Curtin University of Technology in Australia. So, so if I go further, the second paper is also with them. And then I go to the fourth one. And if I look for the first two authors, and so they are also associated with Simon Fraser University in Canada. And of course, the second author is currently at SLIIT, but his affiliation is with Simon Fraser University in this paper. So there may be some Sri Lankans, but there's still, some of them are working overseas. So if I go to the next page and start looking at 2019 papers, and you can see, so the papers I marked with a red line, and I haven't analyzed them, but they look like they have authors from international space, universities, research institutes, and so on. So now it's just giving you an example of some successful researchers who have international collaborations, right? So now to start the question why, and I go back to to define what is a joint PhD. So the joint PhD is, can't see my own screen. Okay, now joint PhD is, in a way, I would like to describe it's a child or a working bee of an intensive research collaboration between two research groups. And these research groups may reside in the same country or different countries, but the important thing is that these research groups most likely have different research subcultures. That means they operate in different ways, okay? So, and the student spends a few years in each group, learning and drawing, as I call it, in the two subcultures. So that is the beauty of it. The student learns from two different groups, and not only how to do research, how to write papers, how to conduct experiments, they also learn how to operate in a research subculture, right? So this is a huge advantage. So a PhD could be either awarded jointly. So that means both universities give a single certificate saying this is jointly awarded. And PhD could also be, in some instances, awarded as two separate ones, okay? But for the same thesis, okay? So now the program we have run in University of Melbourne with IITs is a joint certificate. So the certificate says, so University of Melbourne certificate says, this is awarded collaboration with IIT, particular IIT, in this example, IIT Kanpur. And IIT Kanpur gives him a certificate saying, this PhD is awarded in collaboration with University of Melbourne. All right, so because our legal system do not allow you to print one certificate with two universities in there, so we came up with this solution, but we acknowledge each other in our own certificate. So this person I single out, Salil Gol, and because he was kind of my first experience in supporting, helping, mentoring our joint PhD. I did not supervise him. He's in civil engineering area. I'm not a civil engineer. But I was the director of the center where he actually did his PhD. So he has spent a couple of years in Kanpur, IIT Kanpur, and then came to University of Melbourne. But this student, and I show him his profile now, is a good example to look at. He's a very high quality student. He could have come to University of Melbourne and did his entire PhD, and it was rather his choice to stay back in India for a few years and to do the PhD. So I went to his LinkedIn profile to see, because I knew what I was looking for, of course, but I wanted to see how he lists his qualifications. So if you look at that, these two red circles on the left, and he says PhD awarded under Joint PhD program, 2013 to 2017. And below, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, PhD awarded under the joint program, Melbourne, India Postgraduate Academy. So that is the one that I was the director of at the time. And he acknowledged that, but it's the same number of years. So it's very clear it's a joint PhD. So of course, his first degree is also from a very, very good university. But the most interesting part comes on the left, on the right, because in his LinkedIn page, I cut and pasted this bit, and this is where he lists his employment. So if you look at that here, so he completed his PhD in 2017, and he has started in June 2018 his job as a lecturer. Assistant professor is kind of similar to lecturer at IIT Kanpur. And he was not a lecturer before, so it's a fresh appointment. So if you know the IIT system, they very rarely do that. They very rarely get a fresh PhD as an assistant professor. They say, go and work somewhere else, have a postdoctoral experience for a couple of years, go to industry, and then come back. But this guy was hired, recruited very quickly, because now he was highly recommended by us, because we have seen his talent at the University of Melbourne. And of course, IIT Kanpur knew about his quality as well. So the question is, could joint PhD graduates have more opportunities? In some instances, yes. And in this particular instance of Assistant Professor Salil Goel, that was the case. Okay. So now I come to the question, and why international joint PhD program? So you have a bit of a flavor, a bit of an idea of how it works and what is a joint PhD program and why. So just like my friend, Professor Priyan Mendis's Google Scholar page, it's a fact. If you look at half of the Sri Lanka's ISI Web of Science Index publication, so this is a database that I always refer to if I want to find a quality paper, because it lists mostly good journals and good conferences. So I looked at how many publications Sri Lanka has done in the last 5 years. And definitely I did go, and there's a way to count international collaborations, and more than half of these papers in that ISI Web of Science coming from Sri Lanka have international collaborators, okay? And then I've looked at highly cited papers from Sri Lanka for the same period, and many of them come from through international collaborators. So these are facts. And another interesting fact here is a joint PhD is one effective way to do international collaboration. So let me put it that way, because we are using the most mobile section of the research community. So as you know, professors and lecturers, and they are usually it's difficult to travel, difficult to go to another country and spend a couple of years unless you take your sabbatical. So you're mostly stuck in one institution teaching and doing research. So, but students are not like that. So we use the most mobile section, most mobile part of our research community to do the traveling, to go between two groups and try to do our best. So these are sort of facts. So if you look at the exposure and multiple research communities, that means if you have a collaboration between Sri Lanka and Australia, I take Australia as an example, and maybe we know in Australia the Australian co-authors of papers you publish, and in Sri Lanka the Sri Lankans know the Sri Lankan co-authors of the papers you publish and their reputation, and therefore it's probably more likely that someone read your paper Okay, so, and then eventually cite your paper. So it is also known, widely known, that if you have a collaborative international collaborations in your papers, and you also get more citations. So it's mainly because of the quality, but also because of this broader familiarity with the co-authors in multiple research communities. And also from the journal's perspective, if I'm the reviewer of a journal, if I'm the associate editor of a journal looking at a paper, and it's easier for me to make a publication decision, right? And if I see there's a really good collaboration, so if I see a collaboration especially with a good group, right? And then I know that this group will not publish low quality work. So then I will have that influence in me. I mean, this is undeniable. So, right, people look at where the papers are coming from, and in most of the cases, not completely blind to the source of the paper. So it is easier to make the publication decision, but of course the paper has to be high quality, and at least one of the authors in the paper should be well known, otherwise it wouldn't work. So, because the argument is they are well known, they are pretty good, and because of the reason, because they produce high quality work. So, and most high quality researchers maintain their quality of research outputs because of the funding and the support and the research culture in the country. So now, if I'm honest, in Sri Lanka, it is unfair that we expect from our broader academic community do similar to a country where the research funding is much stronger. So it is helpful. I mean, it is very useful for Sri Lankan academics, especially the younger academics who just completed their PhD somewhere in a good place and came back, or joint PhD between Sri Lanka and an overseas good lab, and then come back to academia. And especially for them, it will be really good to have the opportunity to collaborate with a research group where the funding is not a big issue, right? And Sri Lanka has also very good funding, but I'm talking comparatively. It is some other countries and research groups are much better funded. So now, coming to a kind of my last slide or slides, how do we consider this joint PhD as a vehicle to do international collaboration, which has obviously quite a large number of benefits. And I haven't spoken about the benefits in collaboration in terms of industry that you can access to, and you can access to industry in 2 different countries, governments in 2 different countries, institutes and ministries in 2 different countries. So I haven't gone there yet. I haven't gone there at all. So now in a pandemic situation, why is it even more important? Because travel is challenging. So I just watched TV today and it says until July next year, we probably won't be able to travel freely. So now there are students graduating and they want to do a PhD. And if they don't start the PhD right now, they are losing time. So that is one issue. So we, in a situation like this, it's quite an important vehicle to conduct research. And the students and supervisors meet on Zoom anyway. So I haven't seen my students live for the last 9 months, but I am having meeting with them every week over Zoom. So it does not matter whether the students residing in Sri Lanka or China or US or Melbourne for me. So the students can only see one of the supervisors in country X. So now I have this situation. I have PhD students stuck in China. So I'm appointing one of the Chinese academic researchers who was my previous student as a co-supervisor, because then they can meet there in China and talk to each other and get support. So this is actually no difference to pre-pandemic situation. So it's the same situation, but the students can easily access the local supervisor, which is an advantage. Students have less stress as they can stay in a more familiar country okay, and they can choose where to spend the time, and they can plan things. If you have a parent that you need to care for, and or if you want to plan some personal activity and getting married, whatever, you can plan all of these things. So they have less stress if you have ability to stay in 2 different places and do your PhD. So and then there is another avenue that I'm not going to talk about, but I'm going to do these things now. Jointly supervised but not jointly awarded degrees is another option. So I have I'm just talking to about 3 or 4 Sri Lankan academics at the moment to jointly supervise, but not jointly award, because jointly award would mean that you need to have agreements that, for example, University of Peradeniya has an agreement with RMIT, and the UGC has an agreement with QUT and so on. And UGC also had an agreement with the University of Melbourne in the last couple of years, which is most likely expiring this year. So, and you need these agreements to do joint degrees, jointly awarded degrees, but you don't need agreements just to supervise, co-supervise each other's PhD students. This is very easy to implement, but it is not necessarily advantages for one of the institutions, because you jointly supervise a PhD, but the credit for completing the PhD only goes to one institution or one country, okay? So, and these things matter, because if you talk about the research outputs, research performance of a country or institution, they actually look at the number of PhDs you graduate. So it's always better to do a jointly awarded degree. So thank you very much. And that is my last slide. And I hope that I didn't do too much more than 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you a lot, Professor Saman. That was very nice of you. Good thoughts actually as to why a joint PhD is really important. So next we have Dr. NCM Nasvi, representing the Faculty of Engineering from University of Peradeniya. And he'll be talking about the joint PhD model between RMIT, or Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, and University of Peradeniya. Over to you, Dr. Nasvi.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much to Professor Shameen Jinadasa, Director, International Relations Office, for giving this opportunity to present my experience as the coordinator of the joint PhD program between Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, and Faculty of Engineering, University of Peradeniya. So it will be kind of a case study. My presentation will be a kind of case study, and I have been working in this position as the coordinator of this joint PhD program for like last nearly 3 years. So I will be sharing my experience, how I established this particular program, and so I'll outline the following: the overview of the joint PhD program, what are the key features of the PhD program between Peradeniya and RMIT, the benefits to RMIT and Peradeniya, how we have progressed to date, and the sustainability of the program, what are the goods and bads or concerns to make it more sustainable. So this is a kind of a case study based on my personal experience. So overview of this program, actually to mention how this all started. Personally, I did my PhD at Monash University, Australia, and I graduated in 2014, and then I returned to Sri Lanka. So I had ties with Melbourne, but I did my PhD at Monash University, not RMIT University. So in 2016, I went for an international conference at Monash University, and then I paid a visit to RMIT, where I met Dr. Chamila Gunasekara. He is currently a postdoctoral research fellow at RMIT. So we had some discussion about why don't we work together, some very preliminary discussions. Then I returned and I had a discussion with the head of the department that time at Peradeniya, Professor Ranjit Disanayaka. He was the head of the Department of Civil Engineering. He had good ties with Australia, and especially with Professor Jiva Setunga. So Professor Ranjit had a discussion with Professor Jiva Setunga. She is the currently Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Innovation of RMIT University. So then this is how it all started. So we used our contacts, the contacts that we established during the PhD and after the PhD. And then we had our first formal discussion in January 2017. As you can see in this photograph, that time Dean Professor Lilanda Rajapaksa and the academic head of the department, Professor Ranjit Dissanayake, actually Professor Sujiva was here in Sri Lanka. So our team, even Professor Shameen Jinadasa was involved in this discussion. So we started these discussions in January 2017 as to how we can work together and start a joint PhD program. We exchange our ideas, but considering the regulations in both the universities, and we had series of discussions until September 2018, about 3 discussions time to time, or physical discussion. Whenever Professor Jiva was here, we had discussions and we continued. These discussions were really successful. Finally, in September 2018, we signed the MOU and a quadruple agreement for a joint PhD program between RMIT Australia and UOP Sri Lanka. Now, when I introduced this program in Peradeniya, everyone knew what is MOU, but the word quadruple agreement was a very strange word in Sri Lanka, at least. So we had to do a lot of search and convincing in the administration here. The quadruple is an individual level agreement between the candidate, among the candidate, University of Peradeniya and RMIT University. So it is an individual level agreement that we sign for each PhD, whereas MOU is the overall agreement between the 2 institutions. So the aim of this MOU was to work together involving in research collaboration, participating in seminars and academic meetings, exchanging faculty and staff members, providing visiting scholar opportunities for PhD candidates, and expanding the relationship to develop a quadruple. So we started 2 PhDs in 2018. Personally, I was involved as a principal supervisor for the very first PhD. So we had our inauguration ceremony in October 2018 at Faculty of Engineering, and the MOU was signed and during this period. And then we started the first PhD in the area of concrete technology, and I just put a print screen of the quadruple agreement. We little bit modified the existing quadruple agreement at RMIT involving Peradeniya, and this agreement has to be signed by each PhD student. So during our discussions, we discussed what are the conditions, what are the qualifications to enter the PhD program, how we screen the students, how the supervision is done, the financial management and completion, everything was discussed, and this quadruple agreement contained all these details. There are 12 sections. I just put the print screen of only the first page. So the very first 2 PhDs were commenced in December 2018. Now they have almost completed 2 years, and I am very happy to say that it's going really well. I involved in the first PhD on concrete technology, and the second PhD was on environmental engineering. Actually, the first PhD student is currently at RMIT Melbourne. So what are the key features? Based on our discussions and by abiding to the regulations of both the institutions, we devised our enrollment criteria, at least to have a second-class upper division in the first degree, and also IELTS average score of 6.5. That is the requirement by international RMIT University. So we have to meet that requirement. So these are the very key basic enrollment criterion that a student candidate should satisfy. In addition, we consider the research track record also. And this joint supervision, at least one supervisor from each institution. At least there should be one principal supervisor from both Peradeniya and RMIT, and we limit maximum of 3 from an institution. So this is at least one principal supervisor should be there from UOP and RMIT. So when it comes to the stay, how a candidate will stay at RMIT and Peradeniya. A candidate will stay maximum period of 1 year at RMIT and minimum of 6 months, minimum 6 months and maximum 1 year. The rest of the duration, the candidate has to stay at in the local university Peradeniya, but the maximum period 1 year can be extended if the supervisors have a mutual agreement for funding the living during the candidate stay at RMIT. The tuition fee, basically RMIT has waived the full tuition fee for the entire candidature, and then they have agreed to pay the living allowance for the candidate stay at RMIT, during candidate stay at RMIT. We had the discussion with the faculty administration, and faculty administration granted the permission to waive the tuition fee for Peradeniya also. And so tuition fee is fully waived in both the institutions. We have to pay a living allowance because we select very highly qualified students. I am very happy to say that we attracted very good recent graduates who have just missed the first class and has a very good track record in terms of academic records. And we selected more normally second class upper division. They are also the upper range. So we got very good students. So we need to pay them a very good living allowance. So RMIT will pay the standard living allowance during candidate stay at RMIT. It is UOP has to find the living allowance for the candidate stay at UOP. So that was the agreement. So this particular program, the benefits, what are the benefits to Peradeniya and RMIT? RMIT, they access to high quality PhD candidates at a lower cost compared to onshore students. That was one benefit to them. Otherwise, they have to spend a lot of money in attracting good students. So our students, we have very good students with high intellectual capacity. So that is one advantage. We can attract very good students through this program. Access to funding schemes available for developing countries and development of a parallel research program in the Asia Pacific region. The outcome of the research will be useful to RMIT, and the global exposure to RMIT in higher degree research. The benefits to Peradeniya, actually the capacity building of University of Peradeniya staff in higher degree supervision. As the previous presenter, professor said, very young staff members who have just joined the department immediately after the PhD, we are all involved them in this particular program. So they are all involved in supervising PhD. So this is a very good move to enhance the research culture within the faculty and the university. Establishment of a research collaboration which can attract external funding. Ability to attract high quality PhD candidates to UOP with RMIT affiliation. Development of a high quality research environment which is equipped to address nation's engineering research needs. So these are the advantages to both the institution. Mainly, I personally feel Peradeniya Sri Lanka has a lot of advantages compared to RMIT in enhancing the research culture within the institution. So when it comes to the progress to date, I just wanted to highlight the progress. Now, we started 2 PhDs in 2018. I have just listed the name of the RMIT supervisors and Peradeniya supervisors. We started 2 PhDs in 2018, another 2 in 2019. Our initial agreement was to have 2 PhDs per year, but now we have a little bit expanded. I'm very happy to say that we have started 5 PhDs this year. 5 PhDs this year, they have just started. So up to now, we have about 9 PhD students. 10th one is in the progress now. So this is moving really well, and you can see a diverse set of staff members from various disciplines of civil engineering like materials, structures, transport, environmental, geotechnical engineering are involved in this joint supervision. So if I quickly show you the PhDs, the first PhD we started was in 2018 is on concrete technology. I just want to show this. The second PhD was on environmental engineering. In 2019, we started one on pervious concrete for stormwater application. That is now ongoing. And the second project for 2019 was on the asset payment fund allocation and asset management. This is payment degradation. I am involved in this supervision of this particular project. And these are the projects we started in 2020. This is related to modular construction and 3D printing technologies. This is impact of earthquake on cascade effect of dams in Mahaweli River Basin. This is again environmental engineering. So you can see diverse areas are being supervised. So this is about the ongoing projects, and we have already started 9 PhDs. And if I take the sustainability of this particular joint PhD program, it's working really well. It's a very good model and has been working really well. A lot of advantages, especially to Peradeniya, to enhance the research culture within the system, capacity building of both the students and staff, and enhancing the publication track record. As the professor said, a lot of publication through joint collaboration will enhance our research track records. So when it comes to the concerns, one of the major concerns for us was to find the living allowance during candidate stay at RUOP. As you know, compared to Australia, we don't have very high research culture, so it was not so easy to find the living for the candidate stay at Peradeniya for the 2 years time. So basically, I involved in the first project. What I did was I had discussions with the industry. For the first project, I talked to Tokyo Cement Company PLC, and we got some funding to cover the living for the candidate for a period of 1 year. So like that, we made some arrangements with the industry, and also we talked to the RMIT supervisors of the respective projects at personal level, and they also helped us finding this funding. So I am now trying to establish a sustainable mechanism to have some fixed funding annually to cover this living. I am in discussion with the faculty administration and RMIT staff members, and also we are trying to link the industry and International Relations Office also has arranged some workshops on this. So we are trying to use these contacts to establish a sustainable mechanism so that this program will be sustainable and will be very useful in enhancing the research culture within the university system. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I think I have given you an overall explanation about this joint PhD model between Peradeniya and RMIT. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot, Dr. Nasvi, for your presentation. So I would like to remind again to our attendees, you can post your questions in the Q&A section. We'll be taking them up later. So moving on to our next presentation, we have here today with us Professor Ashantha Goonetilleke from the Queensland University of Technology, Australia. So he'll be presenting on the joint PhD model between QUT and University of Peradeniya. Over to you, Professor Ashantha.
Okay, so thank you. Can you see my screen and can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
You can see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, if you can,
thank you.
So if you can move into the presentation mode, slideshow view.
It's in the presentation mode.
Yeah, you can go to the full screen mode. So if you can stop sharing and then reshare again.
Not the presentation.
Okay, now we are
okay.
So, do you see the presentation mode now?
Yes, yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, so thank you for giving me this opportunity. So thank you to the two previous speakers who have spoken about the benefits of the joint PhD, etc. So I'll talk about the joint and split PhD program that we have in place between QUT, my university, and Sri Lanka. So I'll first talk about the joint PhD program, and then after that I'll explain about the split program. So from what I understood from the previous speaker, the agreement between RMIT and University of Peradeniya is sort of available for any student to apply. whereas our PhD program between Sri Lanka and KUT is only for academics who are already employed in a university and does not have a PhD. So in the case of the joint PhD program, the student would enroll at KUT, and I said the specific Sri Lankan university. There we have an MOU in place, and we have 3 universities that fall into that category. So that's University of Peradeniya, University of Colombo, and University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. So the student could be an employee of any university in Sri Lanka. In fact, last month I graduated a student who is an academic at University of Jaffna, and previously I had a student who was from the Southeastern University. So in both instances, the one from Southeastern University, he was enrolled at University of Peradeniya. Then I have 2 students from University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. They are again enrolled at University of Peradeniya, because those are the 3 universities that they can enroll in. And what happened was the 2 students who were from University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, they enrolled at University of Peradeniya, and after they enrolled, we signed the agreement with University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Anyway, so in terms of the PhD program, they are supposed to spend 3 years on the PhD, and I say minimum 1 year at KUT, so they can spend more than 1 year at KUT and minimum 2 years in the Sri Lankan University. And we had to have supervisors from both universities. And so it's one thesis they write, though they are enrolled in both universities, one thesis they write, same as what Professor Saman said, and the final examination process has to be harmonized, because the students that I have had were enrolled at Peradeniya. They were enrolled at PGIA, and so the PGIA, the Postgraduate Institute of Agriculture, and their PhD process is slightly different to the KUT process. So we need to negotiate and work out how we can manage the final examination process without unduly disadvantaging the student. And they get a single degree. And when they're at, if they are in Sri Lanka or if they're at KUT, they get the normal research support from both universities. So when they're at KUT, they get the same type of support, the same amount of support as our other PhD students. So in terms of where it could be research support, in terms of computing support, or in terms of access to laboratories, consumables, travel, whatever. So that's the joint PhD program. So between the joint PhD program and the split program, there's very little difference. So the only differences are what I have highlighted in yellow. So in the case of the, sorry, I got a mistake here. It should say split program. So the student only enrolls at KUT, but he or she is affiliated to any Sri Lankan university. So, and we will have an MOU in place. So here the student enrolls in both universities. Here the student enrolls in only one at KUT, but would be affiliated with another university. Again, there is no difference here. It's 3 years full-time, 3 years full-time with minimum 1 year. Because I have students who have spent more than 1 year at KUT. So it's actually up to the individual student how much time they want to spend at KUT. So again, we are supervisors from both universities, one thesis, and the final examination process is solely according to KUT processes. Again, it's a single degree, and they get, so whether they're in Sri Lanka, or whether they are at QUT, they get the normal support that a full-time PhD student would get. So in terms of the support, so they get a tuition fee waiver, so they don't have to pay any money for their study. And as I said before, they get similar support as for other PhD students, because our PhD students, they get the standard kind of support in terms of laboratory access or library or computing, and also they get certain amount of financial support which they can use either for conference travel or any PhD related activity. In fact, for one of my students, I used the support or part of the support to pay her airfare, the return airfare, because she wants to spend extra time at QUT. So that's in terms of the QUT support. In terms of the Sri Lankan or UGC support, they get 3 months of leave with pay, because these are serving academics. So essentially so they still get paid for the time that they are spending on their PhD. They get 39 months. And if they exceed that, if they want extra time, then they can take that extra time, but it has to be without pay. And they also get their living expenses during their stay in Australia. So unlike the RMIT model, they really don't have that financial strife, because in Sri Lanka, they get their salary, and also UGC looks after their stay in Australia. And also UGC looks after their airfare. They actually pay for one trip. And with the financial support they get from QUT, they could spend extra time or do extra trips to Australia. In fact, all my students have actually spent more than 1 year at QUT. If I remember right, they would spend about 1.5 years. So the 1 year need not be in one block. It can be, so what my students would do is they would spend about 6 months in Australia and 6 months in Sri Lanka. So they would do about 3 trips, and they could be using the QUT support for the extra trips. So, and also it looks after their visa, the medical insurance, and any program fees that they have to pay. I think that could be my last slide. Yes, that's my last slide. Okay. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Professor Ashantha, for your presentation. So with that, we would now like to move on to the Q&A session. So with that, I would like to invite, apart from our resource persons for today, Professor Saman, Professor Ashantha, and Dr. Nasvi, and we also like to invite Professor Rohana Chandrajit, Faculty of Science, University of Peradeniya, and Professor Terence Majidit, the Director of the University Research Council, and also Dr. Nanda Gunawardena, who is the former Director of the International Relations Office, is now the Director of the Research and International Relations of Sri Lanka Technological Campus. So I would like to hand over to you, Dr. Nanda, to moderate the Q&A session now.
Thank you very much, Roshan. First of all, I would like to thank our speakers, Professor Halgamuge, Dr. Nasvi, and Professor Goonetilleke, for your very informative presentations. And also, I would like to mention that today we have more than 135 participants, and we have participants from different universities. I recently just now got a question from University of Peradeniya, and we have participants from all disciplines. So it is truly an international and multidisciplinary kind of session. So first of all, I would like to thank organizers for organizing this session. It will benefit to recently graduated students, those who are seeking higher degree opportunities, especially PhD positions in abroad, and also some of our staff members, those who want to start joint PhD collaborations with other staff members in the world. First, before I go into a Q&A session with the resource persons, so today we have Professor Rohana Chandrajit and Professor Madhujit. So Professor Rohana Chandrajit has a lot of collaborations with the European Union, especially with Germany and Sweden, and also he started new project with USA. So first, I would like to get some ideas from him about his research collaborations and his research joint supervision. Then we can move on to the other parts. Professor Rohana.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Nanda, and good afternoon to you all. And also, I would like to thank Professor Shameen for inviting to this Q&A session. I think we had a very good presentation from Professor Halgamuge, Professor Nasvi, and Professor Goonetilleke explaining currently available program. I would like to mention some programs available in European countries, particularly in Germany, as well as in US. The most important thing is in Germany, for example, individuals can apply for split type or sandwich type program. In Germany, there are two types of such programs available. One program is actually the student has to register in Sri Lanka, and then they can apply for 1 year research stay in Germany. But we need a supervisor from German side or from a German university, but they are registering here in Sri Lanka in a PG institute. And then the other program is a split or sandwich type program where student has to register in a German university with a German supervisor, but they can have a supervisor from Sri Lanka, and sometimes they can do a the work or the research work relevant to Sri Lanka, particularly because I am from geology, and for example, geology or even some other subject, they can do a kind of research work relevant to Sri Lanka, but jointly supervised by a German and Sri Lankan supervisor, but is awarded from a German university. Even the similar type of program available in Sweden, because I had one student from Sri Lanka. We got a grant from Sweden, a Swedish Research Council grant. Then we had the postgraduate student. He registered here, but all the research work has been done in the Swedish university. But the degree was offered from Sri Lanka. These two are the main important thing. But I think mostly we discussed earlier that collaborative research program with research program between two universities like UT and Peradeniya, or the RMIT and Peradeniya. But if the supervisor, particularly for our staff members, they can apply for grants from foreign countries like USA, they have National Institute of Health, or Germany, they have this German Research Council, Research Society grants, or Alexander von Humboldt grant. Then we can apply jointly, one from Germany and one from Sri Lanka. Then we can have a student either registered for PhD or MPhil, and then they can register in Sri Lanka and jointly supervise. I think at the moment, for example, we have a National Institute of Health grant from USA. We have few students, actually 3 students registered at the medical faculty here, but they are funded by National Institute of Health, US, and we have supervisors from both countries. Particularly our staff members who join with this discussion, they can try to get some grants from foreign universities and have a joint research program, and then we can have students either registered here or in other countries. I think if somebody is having more questions, then I can answer. Nanda, is that enough? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. To start the discussion, I think
one thing, I think if somebody is applying for example, Germany, they can apply for a scholarship. Actually, the German Academic Exchange Services, we know commonly known as DAAD, they are funding for both programs. That is actually full the student who are registering in Germany full time but having two supervisors, that is called split type or sandwich type. And the others, other the German government, German academic exchange services provided funding, living allowances, university charges, and also research. The funding required for the research is provided by DAAD. The student who wish to apply for this, actually they can apply through this German exchange services program. Only thing is, if the student want to register in Germany, they should have a master's degree. That is the most important thing.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Rohana. Next question actually goes to Professor Terence Madhujit, and also he's the director of University Research Council. And also he has a lot of experience working with the staff members in USA and Canada. I have two questions for you, Madhujit. The first one about your experience related to research, collaborative research and joint research, especially with the USA and Canada. The second one actually related to your planning about university as a director of the University Research Council. So what are the things that you have planned for the year to, say for example, year 2020 to expand the joint research collaboration in University of Peradeniya?
Thank you, Dr. Nanda. Today we have been having a very fruitful discussion with three speakers and moderators from Sri Lanka and Australia. First of all, let me thank Professor Shameen for initiating this and all the contributors who contributed a lot in elaborating the joint PhDs and joint research opportunities between Sri Lanka and other countries. My experience is mostly towards North America. To tell you now, we have been having these split programs. We used to call them the sandwich programs, very commonly with Sri Lanka and European countries. The UK, the Sweden, the Germany, as Professor Rohana clearly explained, they have been very common. I have many of my colleagues here and elsewhere, especially from science and engineering, who have very successfully completed their split programs. Now, one of my students from, in fact, Jaffna University, she got an opportunity to work in Nottingham University last year, but unfortunately, because of this COVID issue, she was supposed to get there by March this year. Unfortunately, that was the time that world was hit by the COVID issue, so she couldn't proceed as planned. So now the supervisor from that end is considering a split program. So that's a good way of going ahead. And to honestly tell you the truth about the North America, conventionally they have very much sort of restricted towards having split programs with countries like ours. That was the conventionally. It was not as open as the European side. So Canadian experience and also US experience is, the joint PhD programs are very limited. Not that we do not have, but the opportunities are very less. But now I think that they are also opening up avenues for split programs right now. One example is UBC, University of British Columbia, the Canada. Now, if you visit their website, you can find they are calling applications for split programs, PhDs. But earlier they did not have. I know there are many from civil engineering. There are many civil engineers who are graduates of UBC. So one of the very famous universities. One of the very famous university for civil engineering. It is not that we do not have the openings are coming up. As Professor Chandrajit very correctly pointed out, NIH has a lot of funding opportunities. So those who I saw on this Q&A some of our colleagues and students maybe, they're asking about the health science related opportunities. NIH, as he correctly said, one of the good opportunities to try it. And postgraduate institute, we have 3 postgraduate institutes at the moment. One is in the pipeline from medicine. Postgraduate Institute of Agriculture, the oldest one, established in 1975, then PGIS, then PGIHS. So PGIA, I have most experience with PGIA. We have had a number of joint PhD awarded in collaboration with Australia. So at the very beginning, PGIA and University of Peradeniya mostly welcome these opportunities. So at the very beginning, we have to negotiate with the other university from outside. What should be the degree awarding university, whether it's 2 universities or just 1 university, who would be the supervisors, what is the time duration that the student will be spending here in Sri Lanka and overseas. Once these are negotiated, it's just a matter of doing your research work and getting it completed in time. We have a number of students who recently graduated as a partnership between the PGIA and few Australian universities. And with regard to the second question asked by Dr. Nanda, now University Research Council was established quite recently. It's just about 5 months back it was established. Earlier, in fact, Dr. Nanda was the founder director of this unit, where both international and research areas were jointly were covered by the same institution. But recently it was basically split, and now we have on one side University Research Council and on the other side international relations. Now under University Research Council, we are planning to boost research collaborations with international partners in this regard. This today's session, I think it's very important, especially for young researchers, academics, and also for mid-career or even older academics to develop relationships. As Professor Saman Halgamuge very correctly pointed out at the very onset, we can use this mobile part, which are our students. So we don't need to travel here and there. They would basically travel. They would do the job, and we can get joint publications. And sometimes, it's very important that they are exposed to 2 subcultures. They can collect samples from Sri Lanka. So certain things we know that we have limited analytical capabilities. So, but we have many things to do, flora, fauna, and many other things. So we can get the samples and get them analyzed elsewhere, where we have a very good state-of-art the technologies, like in the Sweden or the Germany or Australia or New Zealand, Canada, USA, etc. With regard to the mandate of the University Research Council, now we are trying to promote research. So one way is to develop collaborations with outside universities and research institutions, and to promote our researchers to publish in high caliber, high impact journals. Now we are implementing the journal page charges is one of the biggest issues for local researchers. They are doing a lot of work, but unfortunately they are collecting dust, because the moment you send it, sometimes they get rejected. And also sometimes the journals are now very expensive, especially high caliber journals. They ask for page charges, $3,000, sometimes $4,000. Whereas some other journals, they have both options. If you go for open source, you have to pay. If not, you don't need to pay. Somehow from 2021, we are planning to have a scheme to to fund researchers to pay their article processing charge. We are a poor country, then we might not be able to exceed the $1,000. We are trying to negotiate with the university at least to give at least $500 for an article per year is in the pipeline. So it will be implemented very soon. Then we are trying to reward the researchers by recognizing them. We have this UGC recently implemented, not recently, about a couple of years back, implemented this tier levels, tier 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 star is the highest. So recently we called applications from researchers, especially senior researchers, who have achieved tier 4 star level. So they will be, we received about 29 applications recently. Now they are being processed. So we are hoping to recognize those researchers. As Professor Halgamuge started the discussion, we are proud to have 7 researchers who have been identified as the top 2% of the world based on their career-long research work, citation impact also, and also the citation count in 2019. I think that with that I will hand over to Dr. Nanda to continue with Q&A.
Thank you very much, Professor Masjid. We got several questions from the listeners. Actually, my first question goes to Professor Saman Halgamuge. So it's a kind of very simple, but I think a little bit complicated question to answer. One asked, what is the general procedure of joining to a joint PhD program? What is the general procedure of joining to a joint PhD degree program? So can you help our student to find some answers to that? Thank you.
Okay. So now the bad news is it varies from institution to institution. Yeah. Okay. So now one of the speakers already mentioned the name co-tutelle. So co-tutelle is I believe is a French word. And so that is a co-tutelle agreement or concept defines the joint PhD program. In my institution, University of Melbourne, I can actually individually get any student with any good institution, and which means any good institution means Sri Lankan Universities as well. I can get a student, hypothetically, I can get any joint PhD student agreement set up under this co-tutelle agreement. So now the complication here is for each student, we have to do a lot of paperwork, lots of work to sign an individual agreement. So now it is possible, and it's much easier if you already use an existing agreement. For example, RMIT and University of Peradeniya has an agreement. So I know Sujiva well, and I know when the time that she went to Melbourne to Sri Lanka to sign this agreement as well. So if that agreement exists, it's much easier to look at the conditions in that agreement and then apply through that. For example, University of Colombo, if I remember, they have some agreement with Swedish universities. And Morutu University, I'm sure there are agreements with other universities. And so the QUT agreement is through the Ministry of Higher Education, and it is actually, as far as I know, it is limited to university staff wanting to do PhDs, but there may be some open agreements. So if there is an agreement, so you can go to the website and see whether there's a joint PhD agreement signed between the local university that you want to enroll and any foreign university. And that is the starting point, okay? It's easier, but the other way is difficult. So other way would be to go to a university which says that they have the co-tutelle agreement. So co-tutelle agreement means that they have an avenue open for a joint PhD with any other institution. But that is not a joint it's not a formalized agreement, but it is an avenue to explore that for an individual PhD student. So hope my answer is not so complicated as it sounds. So it's much easier if the institution has an agreement dedicated for joint PhD.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Saman. Next question goes to Dr. Nasvi. Actually, one student asked that this UOP RMIT agreement is valid for non-civil engineering PhDs, because we have a student from different disciplines. In fact, not for the engineering, can others also apply for this particular joint degree program from other disciplines, Dr. Nasvi?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, when we initiated this program, we did not need an MOU actually, because this co-tutel is the main agreement. This co-tutel is an individual level agreement between the candidate and the supervisors of UOP and RMIT. So in that context, yes, we don't need any discipline can start, because why this MOU was signed is to have a major document covering both the institutions. Then under that, we can have these individual level co-tutels. Yes, definitely any disciplines other than engineering also can start. But the practical problem is there should be a coordinator from Peradeniya and RMIT in that respective disciplines to arrange, because how the process works is initially we need to arrange supervisor meetings. We have to identify potential supervisors from here and RMIT or any foreign institution. Then the supervisors have to meet and agree on a project. Then we need to call advertisement and select students. That is how we work in this project. So yes, that is possible, but the platform should be available to initiate such a project. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasvi. I think it clarifies a lot of stuff in the Q&A session. So next question goes to Professor Goonetilleke regarding the MOU between QUT and Peradeniya with UGC funded grants. So they want to know that we got that question before the Q&A session. They want to know that with that pandemic situation, there is a requirement to go to QUT and do a kind of part of their research in QUT. With this pandemic, if they are unable to go to QUT, what are the things, what are the other options? How do you adapt to this situation? And you want to change the MOU, or what are the things?
Look, because of the pandemic situation, a lot of rules have changed. The universities have become very flexible. Because at the moment, I have got a student. She's an academic from Sri Lanka. She was supposed to come to QUT sometime in March, and she can't. So she's working in. She's in Sri Lanka. She's working in Sri Lanka, and I have very regular Zoom meetings with her. So though that requirement is there that they have to spend 1 year at QUT, because of the pandemic situation, those rules have been completely relaxed. In fact, I have another student who has expressed interest in coming to QUT, or rather to work with me. And what he's going to do is he will start his initial research in Sri Lanka, and when he's able to come, he'll come over. So those rules, just to emphasize again, those rules are not really being strictly enforced because of the pandemic situation. So there's a lot of flexibility.
Okay. It is a good news, I think, Professor Goonetilleke. I think others will also agree with that. Do you want to comment on that, Professor Saman and Dr. Nasvi, Rohana? About your collaborations, I think same thing, right? Because of the situation, I think rules and regulations are a little bit flexible now.
I cannot actually comment on it because I do not have a student under the circumstances of a joint PhD at the moment, but I have students who are stuck overseas. I have one student stuck in Colorado, another student are stuck somewhere in China. And so I'm trying to find some collaborators who can look after them because they can't travel here right now. But I'm having a meeting with them over Zoom. So now I think if I had those students in a joint PhD setting, it would have been much easier. So that is my answer, but I don't have direct experience at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And next question actually goes to I think Dr. Shameen Jinadasa. It is a kind of general question. They want to know that whether Sri Lanka has a kind of a database to know the information about available joint PhD programs. In fact, if it's not in Sri Lanka, actually, at least in University of Peradeniya, do you have some kind of website or database? So how can you disseminate the things related to joint PhD degree programs available? I'm pretty sure in Sri Lanka, I don't think we have a full database.
Yeah.
But I think University of Peradeniya.
So at Peradeniya University, mainly we are actually trying to publish all the information at International Relations Office website. Currently, the QUT UOP program, the RMIT UOP program, Olangan, the UOP program are some programs that are active currently. But there are some programs UGC supported like QUT. I think University of Melbourne also there's a program supported by UGC. So these programs are for mainly targeted on academics. So UGC also they promote these programs. And in addition to that, the universities, there are some universities they are open for the this kind of the program. So mainly I should mention here the something important that if any staff member or any researcher would like to initiate a joint PhD program from with your, I mean, it may be Peradeniya or any other university in Sri Lanka and other university in overseas, there are certain steps that you may have to develop. So I think Dr. Nasvi also has explained that clearly, so that you say that if I having a good collaboration with some foreign university, so how I could expand that into a PhD program, joint PhD program. So there are certain approvals and the agreements has to be taken, and then the funding arrangement has to be checked, and it can be implemented, and maybe it will take 1 year, around 1 year to take this all the procedures, Sri Lankan side and also the other side of the universities and other foreign university. So the second one is actually this joint supervision. Actually, most of them have explained that is also very important to have the joint supervision, which is very much beneficial for the student as well as the University of Peradeniya or the local university and other university. So that for that it is not difficult to initiate this joint supervision program, so that always we should promote, and we can try to find out this collaborative program. So the whatever the information we receive for the Peradeniya students and staff, we announce them at the university, our International Relations Office website, and also the Facebook. But it not only open for the Peradeniya staff or students, but anyone can access, and it's open to whole country, Sri Lanka, whoever interested to get into this kind of programs. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Shameen, for the detailed explanation. I think that will clear the question, and I think he has answered sufficiently for the question. And next one is actually related to Dr. Nasvi also, and also others can answer to that question, because he mentioned that one PhD program is processing. It means, can you start joint PhD program at any time, or there are some specific dates and time frames for PhD programs? Dr. Nasvi?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, as I said earlier, this co-tutorial agreement can be signed at any time, but normally, based on my experience with RMIT, yes, when the supervisors are ready, when the topic is ready, and when the research project is well defined, the scopes are defined, then we call advertisement and start the project at any time during the year. The only thing is that the agreement should permit that, and also the the finance for the projects should be made available. I think if these conditions are satisfied, I think that will depend on the agreement. There may be some agreement may have a designated time period to start, but RMIT program, yes, we when everything is set, we start. In addition to that, I just wanted to highlight one more point. I can see a lot of questions in this Q&A session about is there any joint PhD program for these people asking for different areas like geometry, geography, maths. So I think
biology, agriculture, so on.
Yeah, so this shows there is a lack of knowledge or understanding on the available joint PhD programs in Sri Lanka. So if the International Relations Office, so if there is any mean for them to get this, get an update about what are the available PhD programs in Sri Lankan state universities or in other institutions with the foreign universities. So I think that will be really useful for this kind of applicants who are seeking for these joint PhD opportunities. I can see there are no enough knowledge on what are the available opportunities. I think I hope this International Relations Office can work on that to establish a page on the available joint PhD program based on different fields. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nasvi. And actually, Professor Rohan Kandit, you want to add something related to the starting date of the PhD programs in Germany? It's like same like Australia or other countries? Or do you have specific time frames for Germany, Sweden, and USA with your experience? Rohan?
Yeah, usually German academic exchange services hold applications every year. Application closing date is usually in October, end of October. But the most important thing is if somebody wants to do a PhD, whether it is sandwich type, joint PhD program or whatever, they have to find out a supervisor from Germany. That is the most important thing. They have to discuss with the research program, research proposal with the German supervisor, then they can apply for funding. Now, even if they like to apply for a sandwich type program, then they have that proposal has to be approved by both supervisor in Germany as well as in Sri Lanka. Then they can apply for funding, and German exchange services, they provide all the facilities, even the travel funding to the successful student. That is actually open. Don't need to be a member of a staff member, young staff member of a faculty. Anybody who is having masters in any field of study, they can apply. Usually closing date is in the end of October. Important thing is they should have a master's degree, MPhil or a master's, MSc, and need to find out a supervisor or agreement between supervisor in Germany and Sri Lanka. That is the most important part in German programs. Okay, Nanda.
Thank you very much. And also we got some requests from the email and we got phone calls to my phone mentioning that because of the bad weather, some student and staff members cannot join. They asked to, if possible, to share the presentation with the International Research Center, some folder. And later on they can discuss and whether they can answer, they can send some question related to the joint PhD degree program to International Office. So I think Dr. Shameen Jinadasa will entertain that request. I hope he will answer to that question. And also, as Dr. Nasvi mentioned, we are getting a lot of queries from different disciplines. I am not going to mention all the disciplines, but the answer is yes. There are so many opportunities for different disciplines. You have to find a supervisor or supervisors, and if you have a joint research grant, you can apply. There is no limitations for discipline. So as Dr. Saman Halgamuge clearly spell out, there are so many advantages. Even you can stay close to your relatives at least 2 years in Sri Lanka. So you go to Australia or some other countries and spend 1 year and do the research part. Basically, if you have advanced research, you can do with them and publish high quality research papers. Those are the advantages. So I am not going to take all the questions related to different disciplines. The answer is yes. And Professor Shameen, you want to answer for that question. So are you going to collect the presentation and put it in one folder, those who want?
I would like to thank all the resource persons and all the panelists today for supporting the program. So we will keep in touch with all the participants and we'll share all the power recordings and all the PowerPoints from today's program. And in addition to that, there are specific questions I will share with the resource persons or the speakers today so that they may be able to answer, especially the particular questions to Professor Ashant. Also, we'll share with Professor Ashant and they will, Professor Ashant will help to provide the answers. So I think it was very good program today. Everybody, I think, got good idea about what is the joint PhD program, how it is going to be beneficial for everybody. Like it's a kind of win-win situation. And the Professor Halgamuge, the Dr. Nasvi and Professor Ashantha, thanks very much for your time and involvement for today's program, and Dr. Nanda Gunawardhan for the coordinating the panel discussion, and also the Professor Madhujit and Professor Chandrajit, always collaborating with us for the research and the supporting for our programs. So thank you very much, everybody, for supporting and participating in the program. So I would like to pass the mic to Roshan.
So thank you, Professor Shameen. So we had a very good session today, very fruitful session, I would say. So I hope we managed to answer all the questions that we got. And we are more than happy to publish all these, Professor Shameen mentioned. We will put them for the presentations, and then we will share the recordings as well. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you for reserving your valuable time. I would like to conclude the session now. So thank you all for joining in, and have a great evening. Thank you.